ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive. Winner of the 2024 West Virginia Broadcasters Association Excellence in Broadcasting Award for Best Talk Show.
It is Monday, August 19th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Let's get this week started off right. We've got comments from Marshall head coach Charles Huff. We'll hear those in a few minutes. Also, I've got comments from Marshall defensive back Josh Moten. We'll have comments throughout the week as camp wrapped up on Saturday. They're now into that next phase, starting to get ready for, of course, Stony Brook. So game preparation and everything that has to do with starting your season off on the right foot, that all begins here in the next couple of weeks. Of course, they're also getting used to the fact that now school is back in now. You'll hear some of those comments from Coach Huff in just a few minutes. We're also going to hear from you. We'll do that in a few minutes as well. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That's our text line. You can also find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Paul Swann. Looking forward to hearing from you. We got a lot to get into today. Of course, as I just mentioned, you'll hear from Coach Huff. You'll hear from Josh Moten. But I'm a little worried for my job now because when I was over at Marshall on Saturday, there's a new reporter on the scene. I threw up a little preview of it on Saturday on my X feed. Braylon Braxton wanted my microphone. Am I going to argue with Braylon? Absolutely not. So when the opportunity presented itself, Braylon got a hold of my microphone, and he started to, and he did a pretty good job, to interview Josh Moten. Here's what it sounded like from our new star reporter, Braylon Braxton.
Braylon Braxton, reporter from Frisco, Texas. What would you say, what are you looking forward to most about this upcoming season with this new herd?
To be honest, I'm just looking forward to getting out there and playing with this team. Like, man, we've been through so much adversity. We had good times, bad times, and it's just going to be really, like, interesting to see us come together and, like, really play together.
And one more question. What would you say is the biggest honor or, just honor of sharing the same numbers? I think his name's Braylon Braxton. He wears number 1 too. Y'all got the same number. What is that like special? Like, do you love that? I know he loves that. He loves sharing the number with you.
I wish he had a different number. I'm gonna just leave that there, but yeah, it's cool. It's all right. Braylon Braxton, he's a cool guy off the field. You know what I'm saying? Got a pretty good arm, can mobile a little bit, so I guess it's cool, have the same number as him. It's all right.
I appreciate your time, Josh.
No problem.
You did a pretty good job there. So Braylon Braxton, we might have to give him the microphone a little bit later on when we get into game week and let him do some of the interviews. So you'll hear a little bit more from Josh Moten later on. Of course, we're going to hear from Coach Huff. We'll get his thoughts. As I mentioned, the text line, so we got a busy day for you. A couple items to talk about. Yesterday, on Instagram, Stone Earl made it known. He had the picture of him in the Herd jersey, making his intentions known, the transfer from North Texas. I know that a lot of people have been speculating. Let's be honest. It's been out there. It's not official until it's official. There are reasons for that, and you have to honor that and respect that. Just because you hear something doesn't make it true, and it's got to be official before it's official. Those might not make you happy as rules, but that's kind of how these things work. You just can't throw that stuff out there. And let's be honest with ourselves just for a second. As much as we would love to know about what the quarterback competition is going to be, how each individual quarterback is performing. I know some of you get upset because, well, we're not getting reports from camp. What's the Thundering Herd looking like? You know who else is looking at those reports? The other teams. I mean, why would you put your scout information out there? Hey, Marshall was able to do this today in practice. Marshall did this today in practice. I mean, you could have general thoughts on how guys are performing. You have known quantities. Okay. I mean, you can't hide the fact that, I don't know, Logan Osborne is pretty good. You can't hide that fact. But if you're trying to keep some things under wraps, you're trying to keep tendencies under wraps, you're trying to keep basically philosophies under wraps, you're trying to keep things under wraps because, let's be honest with ourselves here, teams now are trying to find every single advantage they can come up with. And if they see something or hear something and they can plan for it, it won't be necessarily a surprise. And of course, you might have an opinion that's different from that. So I know that it's frustrating sometimes where you don't hear too much information about a guy. You kind of know he's there, but you don't. At the same time, I get it. You want to have a little bit more about the team. You want to know more about the team. I mean, after all, this is a team that a lot of these guys weren't here last year. A lot of these guys weren't here in spring. Coach Huff even alluded a little bit about that as far as spring ball. And that's a reason why I don't get too excited about spring ball, because a lot of these players that we look at, we talk about, we see, they might be gone. He mentioned in a cut you're going to hear a little bit later on that like a third of the team, a third of the guys from spring, they're not there anymore. So I get it, it's frustrating, but that was, of course, something that we've been waiting for to actually have an official acknowledgement of that. And then Stone just puts it out there on Instagram, kind of acknowledging it for us. So there you have it. You know him now. He's going to be in the mix possibly for that QB1 spot. We don't have that yet. We might find out next week. It could be to be determined. And I don't think Marshall's going to play all its cards in that first game anyway. You're going to see all the quarterbacks, or at least you're going to see 2 or 3. I would think you're going to see 2 or 3 quarterbacks in that Stony Brook game, just in case you don't know that's a tune-up. And if you take them seriously and you prepare for them, it's going to be what it is. It's a tune-up game. I don't want to say it's an exhibition, glorified. It counts. But Stony Brook, if you take them seriously and you respect them, Marshall should be able to handle them. And I think you're going to see vanilla offense, and I don't think you're going to see everything. And at the same time, I think you're going to see multiple quarterbacks. You might see no more than 3 maybe. Maybe you see a little vanilla bland. I don't think you're going to see every single play. It should be a fun game. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to be the entire playbook that first game. Marshall gets off to a good lead and then maybe puts the reserves in. Who knows? Let's hear from Coach Huff when we continue. We'll get your text in as well, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We'll get his thoughts. We'll hear a little bit from Marshall defensive back Josh Moten. We'll hear from you as well on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Giovanni's Pizza. Fresh, hot, and tasty. Have it delivered right to your door. Giovanni's, the Italian place to be.
Did you know September 11th is a National Day of Service? We invite you to be kind with Volunteer West Virginia, because every mountaineer has the power to make a difference. Join in our statewide Day of Service, whether it's lending a hand or spreading kindness. In West Virginia, every mountaineer is a volunteer. Visit volunteer.wv.gov to find a volunteer opportunity near you. Brought to you by Volunteer West Virginia, the West Virginia Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Remember the first day of school, new backpack, fresh hairstyle, cool new shoes? Now, if only mom had washed the car before dropping you off. Send your kids back to class and help them make a great first impression this new school year with a clean ride from Thoroughbred Express. Choose from a range of services tailored to meet your needs. From their signature wash and dry to tire shine, foam bath, triple foam, wheel cleaner, bug press, ceramic seal, ceramic shield, and weather guard. Thoroughbred Express has you covered. And after your wash, enjoy post-wash amenities like high-powered vacuums, all-purpose cleaner spray, fresh microfiber towels, and dedicated bay trash cans. All available at your local Thoroughbred Express location. So whether you're dropping the kids off or heading to campus yourself, a quick visit to Thoroughbred will make this school year shine. Wash with the best. Thoroughbred Express. Find a Thoroughbred Express location near you at thoroughbredexpress.com.
Let the good times roll. Downtown Huntington's premier weekly music event is back. It's Mount West 9th Street Live, presented by New Trail, Garage Beer, Big Truck, The Beast, Lamarco Prosecco, and Matua Sauvignon Blanc. This Friday, it's the Bog Stompers. Music starts at 7 on the Marshall OBGYN stage. The Little Caesars Kids Zone is back, and Gomart Happy Hour starts at 5. Enjoy food and drinks from the Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe, Sip Downtown Brasserie, and Summit Beer Station. Mark your calendar for Friday, August 30th. It's Huntington Music and Arts Festival Night, featuring Brad Goodall with Massing. 9th Street Live is driven by Yes Chevy, Yes Ford every Friday night at 7 through Labor Day. 9th Street in Huntington in between 3rd and 4th Avenues. Sponsored by Delta Hotels, Marshall OBGYN, Wendy's, Mountain Mindful, City of Huntington, Marshall University, Impact Media, Xfinity High Speed Internet, One Way Septic and Rent-A-Can, and Kendrick Communications. You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Winner of the 2024 West Virginia Broadcasters Association Excellence in Broadcasting Award for Best Talk Show.
Our text line this hour is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Welcome back to today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Let's go to our text line. We open that up every day, 304-396-TALK. Texter says, Paul, Cole Pennington shouldn't even have to touch the turf first game. Let's be honest. I would think you would want to have a good look at 2 or 3. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing that you could have 2 or 3 possible looks at quarterbacks, get some reps in there. I mean, if you're being honest, I don't know if I want a quarterback in there for a blowout. Give another guy a chance. We'll see how it plays out. We will really see how it plays out. Back to our text line, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter wants to know, where has Chuck Landon's column been for the past month? Chuck's taking some time off. I know that. Don't worry. There's nothing to worry about. Chuck's just taking some time off, so no worries there. Hopefully he'll be his old surly self here in a couple of weeks when I see him in the press box. I'm looking forward to seeing his grumpy self. No, Chuck's just taking some time off. So I've had a couple people ask me that question, so I just want to get that out there right now. Nothing else, nothing to it. Texter says, Paul, I saw a video of the band. I love the band, and I'm a huge advocate for them getting to play much more, especially basketball games. But why do they have to play country roads? That's for the school up north, not Marshall. What should the song be for Marshall? That's probably my question to you. I mean, Marshall is a school in West Virginia, and I get it. The Pride of West Virginia, the band that is with that school up north, the way you refer to it, country roads is sort of their theme. That's how they brand themselves, Q Country Roads, when the victory happens. It's a pretty cool way to brand yourself, actually. But what should Marshall play? What's the theme song? What's the identity for Marshall? What's the identity for the band? That's a fair question, I think. What's the identity? What should Marshall play then instead of country roads? 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That's our text line to be a part of today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So I was over at Marshall on Saturday, wrapping up camp. We're getting set for the season now. So Coach Huff spent a few minutes with us, telling us a little bit about what he thought about the end of preseason camp, and we'll start there with his comments.
It's crazy to say in today's times that, camp is really only 3 weeks. I remember it was 5-week camp, but it's come to an end because of when school starts Monday for our guys. It's been really good. I'm still a little bit old school. We got a long way to go to improve and some things, but this team is special. The connectivity, the camaraderie, it's different. In today's world where you got 40 new kids, that got here in June. You know, that's different. You know, and that was the missing piece last year. You know, obviously you don't know it until you kind of step back and evaluate. We just weren't connected, and that didn't mean we weren't, you know, friends or there was locker room fights. It was just because they didn't know each other, it made it very difficult to play for each other. You know, we played with each other last year, you know, kind of like you drop your kids off at the playground and they go play, but they're not out there playing, you know, basketball or playing flag football for their teammate. They're playing with a group of guys they just met. And a little bit that happened last year, you know, and it took us a while to kind of get to the point where we could play for each other. And I think we're there now. We spent a lot of time this off season being very intentional about getting to know each other and letting the kids tell their story. And you know, we did a deal this year where every day we had an offensive player and a defensive player kind of stand up and say why you chose Marshall and who's important in your life. And, you know, some of those stories, they hit home. And a lot of the guys don't know that, you know, they got issues at home or don't know that, you know, they've been through things in their life. So when they get to tell those stories, it kind of draws the connectivity a little bit. So that's good. And then obviously feeling real good that we came out of camp healthy. You know, that's the biggest thing. You look all over the internet now, from the NFL all the way down to college. You know, guys are, you know, losing guys for the season in camp, and that's a big part of what we got to be able to do. We got to be able to stay healthy, and the longer we can stay healthy, the better chance we have.
Yeah, that's a big one right there for me. Staying healthy, keeping all your players ready to go. If you have that depth, you'll be able to use that throughout the year and maybe keep guys even healthier throughout the course of a season. So he was pretty positive, and I understand where he's coming from and why he's coming from that angle, because with this transfer portal, you don't know guys anymore. And that's going to be a problem. And I don't think it's going to be as much of a problem because we're running out of those super seniors, right? We're running out of those COVID super seniors. So I'm hoping this settles down just a little bit as far as this transfer portal is concerned. But at the same time, it's hard to build any connection with a football team when the players change every year. And I'm not talking about normal graduation players come in for a couple of years, 3 years. They graduate. New faces come in. They progress. You get to know who they are. It's not like that anymore. The whole cycle has changed. You could have, as Coach Huff indicated, guys that are coming in, you don't know who they are, so you got to get a chance to know who they are and find out more about them. And, of course, he's right. If they're playing for themselves and they're not playing for Marshall, I mean, what's that doing anybody? This is a team sport after all. 304-396-TALK, our text line. We're listening to Coach Huff, his comments from earlier in the weekend. He spoke to us after the end of camp. He was asked about where he's seen the most growth.
Probably in the O-line, you know, just because, you know, you really got, you know, 4 new guys, 5 new guys, you know, kind of working together there. You know, Logan is probably the only true cemented starter at return. You know, Slappy played a little bit, but a lot of those guys are new. You know, it takes time, it takes time to, you know, get that connectivity and working together, you know. And then we did a lot of the first couple weeks of camp. We moved them around a lot just to see who could play tackle, who could play guard. The last week and a half, we've kind of let them settle in a little bit, and you start to see a little bit more continuity, which was the plan, you know. But that's probably a group that's grown the biggest just because you have so many new guys that have to work together. Receivers, we got a lot of new guys, but, you know, one guy's playing X, one guy's playing A and Z and Y and all that. But those 5 got to work together. So that's probably the biggest takeaway moving forward, you know, for us.
You're going to need those guys. That's important. How many times have we seen a great quarterback betrayed by his offensive line? How many times have we seen a quarterback that really can't get started because he's always on his back? Got to protect that guy. Another spot on the team is important. It's running back. Even though with this air raid offense, there's going to be a lot more of that ball in the air, right? It's the air raid. But you're going to depend on that running game a lot. And Coach talked about that running back room and how those players are really coming together and complementing each other.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy. You know, Jordan Houston's probably the quietest one, but he's probably been the most consistent, which we expected. He's older. You can tell AJ's been in the program, for a few years because he understands how we do things. Even though the system is new, he understands how to practice, how to finish runs, those type of things. And then Ethan Payne, I told him the other day he should probably go ahead and put his ballot in to run for mayor because he's just kind of, show up and punch the clock. He's, everybody, gets along with him. He doesn't have bad days, meaning, you look at him every day, he's happy. I think this place means a lot to him, obviously him and his brother. I think being from here, last year's, the way the season ended, obviously he wanted to improve on that, and he came back with the right mentality, and he's kept that throughout camp.
And one other position that we love to talk about, and we'll hopefully have more as we get closer to game day, it's that quarterback competition. Now, he spoke in general terms because, again, he's not going to fill out the card and hand it to us and say, okay, guys, here it is. Here's the starting quarterback. Some schools are doing that. That's just not Marshall these days. Marshall's not telling you anything until you absolutely need to know. It frustrates fans. I get it. But he is positive. We can say this. He's positive on the competition he's seeing from the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I'll be honest. For the first time since I've been here, we've had true quarterback competition. I've probably told you guys we got it, but a couple days into it, you probably know who the guy was. But we've had legitimate competition, and not just two guys. We've had guys who would compete. Ja'Kai Long did some things, in the last couple of practices that, give you some excitement. But I feel really good about the competition. And, since we've been here, we haven't had a quarterback to finish the year. I think that's the reality of college football now, all the way back to the first year. Every year, something happens to that guy, and obviously that guy has a lot of control over the offense. So having competition, true competition, gives you a little bit more confidence going into the year for sure.
Of course, we are waiting. Who's going to be the starter? That's the biggest question right now. Who's going to be the starter? Will we even truly know who the true starter is week 1 against Stony Brook? I'm not so sure. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. And that's our text line. From the text line we go. Texter says, Paul, Marshall Band should play the West Virginia Hills. That is by Rick Pickren. All right, let's put that on the list. West Virginia Hills by Rick Pickren. Any other suggestions for what the band should be playing instead of Country Roads? That's the thought here today from the text line, that shouldn't be played at Jones C. Edwards Stadium. Are you in favor of Country Roads being played at Jones C. Edwards Stadium? Is it a song that you would say, hey, they don't own it, let us use it? 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We got more from Coach Huff. We'll get his comments when we continue. Also, we'll hear a little bit from Josh Moten, get his thoughts from camp wrapping up, and we'll hear more from you. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Save big money on your next project right now at Menards. Shop the best in-stock selection of AC2 pressure-treated lumber, decking, and fencing. It's ideal for all your outdoor building projects and is easy to load in our drive-through lumberyard. Plus, you can get free estimates fast with our deck and fence design programs in-store or online at Menards.com.
Save big money at Menards.
Introducing In Your Business, a podcast highlighting thriving Huntington area businesses. Presented by Moses Auto Mall. Online at mosesmeansmore.com. In Your Business tells the story of Huntington's successes and where you can gain invaluable insights and advice from seasoned entrepreneurs. Produced by Kindred Communications and the Huntington Regional Chamber of Commerce. Find it on kindredcom.net, huntingtonchamber.org, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Buddy's All-American Barbecue is now in Milton. Enjoy all your favorite Buddy's classics like pulled pork, brisket, ribs, and more on East Main Street in Milton. Buddy's All-American Barbecue, the home of great barbecue, ice-cold beer, and killer wings in Huntington and now in Milton. Metro Community Federal Credit Union has been serving the Huntington community for 70 years and is proud to announce our newest location in Lavalette is now open. Wayne County residents, you now have access to a modern banking facility, a full range of services, advanced technology, expert financial advice, and even a smart coffee kiosk cafe. Learn more about Metro Community Federal Credit Union online at metrocommunityfcu.com or visit us today on 5th Street Road. Equal housing lender, member NCUA.
It's better over here. If you're 55 and up, T-Mobile has an exclusive rate plan just for you. Right now, get 2 lines of talk, text, and data for just $30 a line. That's a 45% savings versus Verizon and AT&T. Plus, you can get one of the latest 5G phones free when you add a line. That's right, a free 5G phone. Experience all this and more on America's largest 5G network. So why wait? At T-Mobile, customers 55 and up can get 2 lines of talk, text, and data for only $30 a line. Just go to T-Mobile.com/choice55 or visit your local store to make the switch.
With AutoPay using debit or bank account plus taxes and fees, 45% off 2 lines versus AT&T Starter and Verizon Welcome. Plan benefits vary. Free phones up to $300 off with 24 monthly bill credits and qualifying new line for well-qualified customers plus tax and $35 device connection charge. Contact us before canceling entire account to continue remaining bill credits. Bill credits end if you pay off device early. See details at T-Mobile.com.
Progressive presents 10 things on a plumber's to-do list that are harder than getting a small business insurance quote. Waking up for 5 a.m. plumbing disasters, finding out why water is pouring from the ceiling, replacing a pipe in a home from the 1800s, then dealing with invoices or your awkward apprentice or that really weird smell, and then there's breathing and eating and, of course, clogs. But the easiest thing on any small business owner's to-do list? Seeing if you could save on the business insurance that's right for you. Get a quote in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We continue on with today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line this hour is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Paul Swann. Back to the text line. Texter says, Paul, Coach Huff is a poker player. He won't show his hand. Most coaches should stick to that, not show their hand. And I get it. This is entertainment for a lot of us. We want to know what's happening. We want to have all that insider information. But at the same time, these coaches are trying to win games, and it's spy versus spy out there. I don't know. Some of you might not get that reference, the old Mad Magazine reference. But it is a spy versus spy out there. You're trying to figure out everything you can about other team, and that includes social media because, somebody's going to run their mouth and they're going to post something. Some family member is going to be at a practice and throw something up on social media, or they're going to have some insider information and they're going to post that, and somebody's going to find that and go, okay, we'll just make a note of that. It might be true, might not be, but we'll just be aware of it. You wouldn't believe athletic departments and their football staffs are super sensitive to that, always trying to find out more about the other opponent. And that includes Stony Brook. You definitely have to take them seriously. If not, you might have a debacle on your hands. We'll get more of your texts in. Again, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I want as much information as I possibly can as well, but at the same time, I get it. I understand it. Hopefully we can get those guys to open up a little bit more, trust us, but at the same time, we're not going to get the game plan. Okay, Paul, here it is. Here are the first 10 plays. We're going to script it out, and we're going to go with this quarterback, and we're going to throw, run, run. That's how we're going to go. That's how we scripted it. No, not happening. More from Coach Huff. We're getting set for, of course, the season. Stony Brook, the first opponent for your Marshall Thundering Herd. Now that camp is over, Coach talked a little bit about his timetable for just putting everything into place.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me this camp was not necessarily who's going to start. the biggest thing for me is how many guys that we have on the team that can play winning football. And I think sometimes, and I guess, I mean, you probably laugh, but I've matured as a coach a little bit. I've learned through experience. Sometimes you get so itchy to get to the starters, or the starters got to go out there, or every time you say ones, it got to be this group. And the reality of it is the Sun Belt is a league of attrition, and the team that stays the healthiest, the longest, is usually playing really well in the back end. So you got to find out how many guys do you have on the team that can play winning football. And the way to do that is you got to move guys around. The way to do that is you got to mix up the lineups. I bet you if you went in the receiver room right now and you said, hey, who are the ones, probably 12 guys would put their hands up. And the reality of it is that's how you have to think, because, I mean, Rasheen Ali was the starting running back for us, and he was standing beside me against JMU, so that did us no good. So finding out how many guys we have that can play winning football was a big piece of it. So I feel a lot more comfortable now knowing how many guys we have that can play winning football. I think who goes out there first is going to depend on game plan. We really haven't got into looking at, opponents yet. Once we do that, we'll figure out, hey, we're going to start the game in this personnel or that personnel. We want to run this couple of plays in the first series. That will determine probably who runs out there first. I know that sounds like coach talk, but that's really what it is. I've made the mistake the other way, and we got to have our starting 11. We got to put that starting lineup out, and I get it, from a fan perspective. I get it from a media perspective. You want to know who are your top guys. But as the coach, I want to know who can play in game 8, because those are the games that, really, swing your season,
He gets it. We get it. At the same time, he's not going to tell us anything as much as we'd like to know. We'll find out when we find out, and it can be frustrating for a lot of people. And at the same time, when he said that, we're not – no, somebody's looking at the opponent. He might not be. He might be working on the other things and putting it all together. Don't think that they haven't delegated somebody. They know all about Stony Brook, or as much as they possibly can. They might not have actually put the script together, the game plan together, but they got scouts. They know what's happening. At least that's how I would do it. I'd have somebody who's dedicated to making sure, when the time came, all right, sit down and talk about Stony Brook. All right, Coach, here's what we need to know. A, B, C, and D. 304-396-TALK, our text line. We're listening to Coach Huff's comments from the end of preseason camp. We're getting set now for the start of the season. So everybody's going to go silent for a little while before our next media availability. And Coach Huff, as you just heard, talking a little bit about what his timetable is, or how he's going to be putting everything in place. And he also talked about whether this was the question, is it going to feel good to just get to that point now where you're starting to prep for an opponent? And I think Coach Huff wants to go back to camp, literally.
I'd honestly love another 30 days of camp, just because I enjoy this team so much, and the beauty of camp is it's just us. The students came back this weekend. They had Wild Week. They had the movie in the stadium. And trust me, I love the students. I love the fans. But when it's just us, man, you learn so much about the team. You get to spend so much time with them. I mean, we're here at 5:30. We leave at midnight, and we're with these guys. And you get to find out, how do they feel after they did well in practice? How do they feel after they're a little banged up? How do they feel after they made, 2 or 3 catches in a row? And that's when you get to know your team. You don't really get to do that anymore, because the team I got to know in the spring, a third of them ain't here. You know what I mean? So it's yeah, we know them, but they're not here. So I'm excited to get ready to play, but I'd love to be able to just actually, if somebody's got a cabin in the hills where we can go and have camp next season, I would love to do that, because I think when you can just lock the gates and it's just the team, just the organization, there's so much growth. You look at, remember the Titans, you look at that movie, and, they went up in camp and they came back down, and everybody was like, wow, what happened to them? That's what happens. That's what happens in camp. So, but it's close. We got to get ready to go. You guys got a job to do. You guys can't keep writing about how good our camp has been, or they'll fire you guys. So we got to give you guys something to write about.
Looking forward to that day, that's for sure. So Coach Huff wanting to go to a faraway camp next year. Avoid Crystal Lake, and there are a few other camps we want you to avoid. But maybe we can find you a nice little quiet place in West Virginia. I don't know. Yeah, maybe the Greenbrier. Maybe Brad Smith can buy the Greenbrier, and then you could have a nice little camp away from home. The thought. Finally, Coach Huff, on how his process has changed. So now we're getting out of camp, and obviously he likes camp. But we got to get the game prep eventually. So how's that progress looking? How's that momentum looking? How's that process looking? He talked about how things have changed from when he started this.
I've been trained in a very strict schedule. This is what you do on this day. A lot of my colleagues and counterparts make the mistake of not being flexible. And I think the one thing that I did this year was a lot more flexible. So we're going to spend the next couple of days kind of refining who we are and letting them get adjusted to their class schedule. When can they meet? When can they watch extra film? When can they get rehab? When do they have study hall? Instead of just diving right into the opponent. I think last year we dove in the opponent so early that it becomes, okay, yeah, we know them. And right, wrong, or indifferent, you don't want to have that mentality going in. You know, typically you have 72 hours to get ready for a team. So I want to try to keep it like that. So we'll probably won't start until maybe Thursday. As far as getting ready for the next opponent, we'll use this week to allow them to transition into class, transition into study halls. I know it was many moons ago before all you guys went to college, but you know that first week class, you may change class 3 times. Just the reality of it. I know when I was in college, I didn't go to about the 3rd week because the class you were in, you were going to get into another section, or you had to go get a book for that section, and you find out you're in another section. So the first week or so will be, a little bit of transition from a class standpoint. There's more people back on campus, right? So now all of a sudden you're sharing a dorm with some other people. You're going to have group projects, and you're going to have things to do outside of football. So I want to let them transition into that and get a schedule and a routine before we start talking opponent.
That's something he's been pretty consistent about, schedule and routine. Nothing's changed as far as his thought process, but he has become a little bit more flexible. You let them get that, establish that routine, and then get them into the football routine so they can transition into both. We'll see how it works out. Stony Brook, the opponent, coming up. We'll have that game for you right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. We got a couple of comments from Josh Moten. We'll hear those on the other side of the break, and we'll get your text in 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
At Poca Valley Bank, a handshake can still mean the start of a great relationship. We've been greeting customers with a handshake since 1908. Why settle for less? If you're purchasing your first home or planning for your future, Poca Valley Bank is here to support you with personalized service and local expertise. They are your trusted advisors. Why settle for less when you can experience banking with a team that truly cares? Poca Valley Bank, where relationships matter. Visit PocaValleyBank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Giovanni's has great Italian dishes. Spaghetti with meat sauce, lasagna, ravioli, manicotti, all dinners served with hot garlic bread or Italian rolls. Giovanni's, the Italian place to be.
Remember the first day of school, new backpack, fresh hairstyle, cool new shoes? Now, if only mom had washed the car before dropping you off. Send your kids back to class and help them make a great first impression this new school year with a clean ride from Thoroughbred Express. Choose from a range of services tailored to meet your needs. From their signature wash and dry to tire shine, foam bath, triple foam, wheel cleaner, bug press, ceramic seal, ceramic shield, and weather guard. Thoroughbred Express has you covered. And after your wash, enjoy post-wash amenities like high-powered vacuums, all-purpose cleaner spray, fresh microfiber towels, and dedicated bay trash cans. All available at your local Thoroughbred Express location. So whether you're dropping the kids off or heading to campus yourself, a quick visit to Thoroughbred will make this school year shine. Wash with the best. Thoroughbred Express. Find a Thoroughbred Express location near you at thoroughbredexpress.com.
I juggle a lot. And managing constipation with belly pain from my irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, with laxatives and fiber isn't enough. My doctor recommended a way to get ahead of it. Then I said yes to Linzess.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We continue on with this Monday. Paul Swann, your host. It's The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. You know all those details. You can find me on X. It's formerly known as Twitter, at Paul Swann. And, of course, our text line is open this hour at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We got baseball action coming up tonight. The Mariners got the best of the Pirates yesterday, 10-3. Pirates are opening up a series in Texas tonight. That's a 7:40 airtime. You can listen to Pirates baseball all season long right here. Also, the Royals got the best of the Reds, 8-1. So a weekend sweep in Cincinnati for the Royals. Reds open up a series in Toronto tonight. And the Brewers got the better of the Guardians, 2-0. That is a 3-game sweep of the series for Milwaukee. Cleveland has the day off. Charleston got the better of High Point in Atlantic League play, 10-2. Dirty Birds are off today. And, of course, if you were watching any preseason NFL action yesterday, the 49ers beat the Saints 16-10. Broncos beat the Packers 27-3. It's preseason. We're talking practice here. Practice. Absolutely talking practice here. Josh Moten, had a chance to hear a little bit of him earlier as Braylon Braxton on Saturday took my microphone. Well, he asked for it. I don't want to mischaracterize him. He took my mic. I gave it to him. But yeah, you can enter. You probably will do a better job than most of us. And he did a pretty good job. So Braylon asked a couple of questions of Josh. But before that, we got a couple of questions in our interview time with him. And the first thing that Josh talked about with us was just his general takeaway from camp. You'll hear this echoed a lot throughout the week.
I would say my biggest takeaway is just the team and how close we came together. You know, we got like over 30 transfers, so a big emphasis was just coming together as a team, making sure like, hey, I know your why, they know my why, and we all know what we do this for. So when it get tough, you know what I'm saying, we can all fall back on that.
Yeah, that's going to be a big theme. That's at least what I'm hearing talking to these guys. You know, they're trying to bond because with the transfer portal, it's hard to form those bonds when, as Coach Huff said earlier, I'll say it again, a third of them aren't here. He was alluding to players from the spring. Yeah, and can't really say too much about that spring team. A third of them aren't here. And so you got to know these guys, understand why they're there. Coach Huff talked about that. And the good news is, and Josh talked a little bit about this, there is some experience returning to the team, and Josh talked a little bit about what he's observed.
Yeah, it's just been me, J.J. Roberts, A.G. Wody. We've been here for a while. We know the defense, just trying to get the new transfers along. And then young guys who played last year, like Amir Foster, he's been coming along and helping the young guys. And he can relate more because, we 22, a little older. He's still young, you know what I'm saying? So he can relate to those guys more.
He's still young, 22. He's older. 22 and older. Father Time has caught up with him at 22. Wow. One more from defensive back Josh Moten. Old man on the team now, right? Moten talked about how the team and how he's got to maintain that momentum. He's really got into how they got to go about doing this now after fall camp, taking it to getting ready for the opponent.
I would say first we just wanted to, learn, especially for the new guys, like learn the playbook, learn what we do. When they motion, things change, what we're going to do. And then now it's just learning what offenses is going to do, how they're going to attack us, you know what I'm saying, and what can we expect from offenses. Like, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a lot of tempo and stuff like that. Like, how are we going to handle when we're tired, thinking when we're tired, stuff like that. So that'll be the biggest thing for us.
There you have it. That's Josh Moten. We'll hear more this week from players from camp as we get set for the start of season. We'll probably hear from Coach Huff sometime next week as game week will be here. They've got a week to go before game week, and, of course, we're going to be there. We'll be right there where we usually are on the West Lot, Jones C. Edwards Stadium. They're moving us this year. We're going to have a different location. We're going to be closer to the M Club Pavilion. Still there, though, so we'll be with you on game days. We'll be there 3 hours before the start with our broadcast, college football today, and then after the game, join me right back here on the radio as we will have our wrap-up show, college football wrap-up. We'll take your phone calls and your texts, and we'll break down what happened. Hopefully it's a Marshall victory against Stony Brook. Let me tell you, wins are easier for me to do. When it comes to these broadcasts, wins are easier because what happens after a win? Everybody goes home happy. After a loss, man, we could be here 2 hours. You've been here for some of those before, so let's hope that the Herd's getting some wins this year and we can all go home happy. But until then, you can open up the text line real easy by texting in 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That is our text line to be a part of today's show here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So what are you looking forward to most upcoming season? Is there anything that you've gotten excited for just yet, or is just in general? I know the transfer portal has kind of been a downer for a lot of people, but we got football. We got week 0 football coming up. How about that? We actually have some games we can start getting interested in and start getting excited for. I'm excited for the start of football. I know you are as well. We do have some exciting games to talk about. There are actual matchups being played on the 24th. Some good ones actually as well. Yeah, Florida State's taking on Georgia Tech, it looks like. You have SMU taking on Nevada. Just going over the list real quick here. We got like 4 games on Saturday. Montana State, New Mexico, Delaware State, and Hawaii. So really, Florida State and Georgia Tech, that's probably going to be the one that we're most interested in. And, of course, we got a lot of games on Thursday as well. On the 29th. North Carolina and Minnesota. That probably stands out the most to me looking at this. There's actually, we got at least a game out of the Sun Belt. Coastal Carolina and Jacksonville State. Again, that's going to be on Thursday, August 29th. So that's one there. A lot of games from the MAC. The SEC's got a couple of games. Murray State and Missouri. Just looking at the schedule here. I'm ready for the full schedule though. I mean, I like games early at the same time. However, yeah, I don't want this to be just like, okay, just throw anybody out there. I think they have to have some sort of, this is a pretty big matchup here. I know you can't usually orchestrate that. The schedule is the schedule. Let's go back to our text line, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter wants to give some shout-outs. All right, we'll do your shout-outs. Let's see. Texter says, Paul, we want to give a special shout-out to the Thundercast. Love those guys. The Drive with Paul Swann. I don't know how many people love that guy, but I appreciate it. Giovanni's Pizza, Coach Huff radio show. All the media coverage that cover Marshall sports all do a fantastic job. Hey, we're missing some names out there. I mean, Luke Creasy, get his name out there. What about Mark Martin? Let's get his name out there. What about Keith Morehouse, Jimmy Tracy? Let's get his name out there. Their names out there. They do good jobs. Am I missing anybody? Good group of guys. Yeah, I'll do shout-outs. Love those guys. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That's our text line to be a part of today's show here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm always going to shout. And when you talk media, I'm always going to shout out my guys. Absolutely. Because some of those guys were here when I started. I mean, Mark Martin was around when I was starting. Keith Morehouse was around when I was. I'm not trying to make them old, but they've been around a while. Lou Creasy wasn't around when I started, but he's here now. I got to shout out my guys. Speaking of guys that have done it for a while, this is a good segue. And I've got a couple of interesting interviews coming up this week and next. So, coming up on Friday, if you follow Kentucky any, you know Jerry Tipton's name. Of course, Jerry is legendary in the state of Kentucky. Also, he's a Marshall alum, and he's got a book signing coming up soon. It's going to be at Marshall. And so Jerry's going to be with me on Friday. We're going to talk about the book, talk about the signing, of course, his career, his time at Marshall. So Jerry's coming on the show Friday. I'm excited about that. I like Jerry. And then I got an opportunity, and I said, yes, absolutely, because Tom Hammond's going to be in Ashland. He's got a book coming up. And so Tom Hammond's going to be with me next week. We'll give you more details next week on that. But back to back, I've got some really big names in the industry. Of course, Jerry is a Marshall, a legend. He has to be. You can't talk about Marshall and sports writing without Jerry's name. You just can't do it. And, of course, Tom Hammond, man, what a career that guy's had. And he's got a book coming up. He's done it all. He's seen it all. And he's going to be with us next week, and you get a chance to see him. I think it's going to be the 30th. I'll get the complete details next week for that, but he's going to be in Ashland. And I think if you are free that night, you should go get a copy of his book because he has seen it all, done it all in sports. And same with Jerry as well. I mean, especially if you're a Kentucky, if you're a Marshall guy, period. I mean, Jerry's a success story. And if you're a Kentucky fan, I mean, Jerry's a big deal. So you got a couple of really spectacular guests coming up here in the next few days. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll keep the text line open throughout the day. We'll go back to it tomorrow. Obviously, you can find me on X as well. That is formerly known as Twitter, at Paul Swann. So if you've got one of those reactions to anything you heard, say you're listening to it on the podcast, which is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or just wherever you get your podcast, you can react. Find me on Twitter. They call it X now. I'm still going to call it Twitter. But that pretty much is going to wrap this one up. Don't forget, we got baseball coming up tonight. Again, the Pirates, they need some wins. They need some wins quickly. And maybe they get a shot at a win tonight. They take on Texas, opening up in Texas for a series there. We'll have that game for you. 7:40 is going to be our airtime on that one here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. And of course, we're getting closer to the start of football season, so we'll have more interviews tomorrow. We're getting closer here in about a week or so. I mean, we're going to be back on the West Lot tailgating. We'll be hanging out over at the M Club Pavilion 3 hours before the start of the game, so excited to see all those tailgates up, and we're going to try to hit some of those tailgates as well. So have your best ready. That's going to do it. Thanks for tuning in. Be back with you tomorrow on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Have a great night, everyone.
Retransmitting in Glorious FM on 94.1 W227BS Huntington. This is 930 WRVC Huntington, celebrating 100 years of broadcasting.